The bitter brew. John Carter let out a weary sigh as he eased his aging body out of his trusty old pickup truck. The familiar creaks of his joints echoed the years of service he dedicated to his country, a lifetime marked by sacrifice and resilience. The southern sun beat down on his weathered face, bringing warmth to his skin, a stark contrast to the chill of uncertainty brewing in his heart. Today, he would visit Tom's Diner, a staple in their close-knit community, where he had shared countless meals and laughter with friends over the years. As John ambled towards the diner, a small smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. He looked up at the faded sign that read, "Tom's Diner," its once vibrant colors now dulled by time. He recalled many mornings spent here, sipping on coffee while discussing life with the regulars, all of whom treated him like family. However, as he approached the door, he felt an unfamiliar tension in the air, an unease that prickled at the back of his neck. Pushing the door open, the familiar jingle of bells announced his arrival. The aroma of fresh coffee and sizzling bacon enveloped him, making his stomach growl in anticipation. The sound of clattering dishes and soft conversations usually welcomed him, but today felt different. A heavy silence descended upon the diner, replacing the usual warmth of chatter and laughter. John shuffled towards his usual spot at the counter, nodding politely to the other patrons. As he did, he noticed the once vibrant conversations falter and fade into awkward whispers. He could feel their eyes on him, the weight of their stares heavy against his weathered skin. Trying to shake off the uneasy feeling, he reminded himself that his mind often played tricks on him, a remnant of his time in the military. Settling onto a stool at the counter, he glanced around, searching for a friendly face. Then he spotted Tom Harris, the diner's longtime owner, emerging from the kitchen. Tom's face, usually creased with a welcoming smile, was set in a hard, unfriendly line. His eyes, usually warm and inviting, were now cold and distant, boring into John with an intensity that made the old veteran shift uncomfortably in his seat. "What can I get for you today, John?" Tom's voice was gruff, lacking its usual warmth, sending a chill down John's spine. John, choosing to ignore the noticeable shift in Tom's demeanor, smiled kindly. "Just the usual, Tom. A cup of coffee and a slice of that famous apple pie of yours." Tom's jaw clenched, his knuckles turning white, as he gripped the edge of the counter. "I'm afraid that won't be possible, John. We're all out of pie today." John's brow furrowed in confusion. He could clearly see a freshly baked apple pie sitting on the counter just a few feet away. "But Tom, I can see it right there. Just a slice. I said we're out." Tom's voice rose sharply, causing several patrons to jump in surprise. A heavy silence fell over the diner, the tension palpable as the other customers shifted uncomfortably in their seats. John sat frozen, struggling to process what was happening. In all his years coming to Tom's Diner, he had never been treated like this. He could sense the discomfort of the other patrons, some averting their eyes, others watching the scene unfold with a mix of shock and morbid curiosity. "Tom, I don't understand. What's going on?" John's voice trembled slightly as he tried to maintain his composure, the disbelief mixing with hurt. "Look, John," Tom said, his tone dismissive, "it's best if you just leave." A myriad of emotions flooded through John. Confusion, humiliation, anger. He had fought for this country, bled for this community, yet here he was, facing rejection from a man he had considered a friend. Slowly, John stood up, his weathered hands trembling slightly as he reached for his cap, the emblem of his service standing out against the diner's harsh reality. As he turned to leave, the weight of the diner's silence pressed down on him. He felt the stares of the patrons, their unspoken words hanging in the air like a heavy fog. Outside, the sun continued to shine, yet it felt dimmer somehow, as if even the light was aware of the injustice he had just endured. John walked to his truck, each step feeling heavier than the last. The humiliation gnawed at him. It was more than just being denied service. It was a reminder of the prejudice that still lingered beneath the surface of their seemingly peaceful town. He climbed into his truck, the familiar creak of the door bringing him little comfort. With a heavy heart, he gripped the steering wheel, his mind racing with thoughts of how things could have gone so terribly wrong in a place that had always felt like home. But unknown to him, this incident was far from over. The eyes of the community had witnessed the exchange, and a ripple had begun to form in the calm waters of their lives. One of those witnesses would soon emerge with the power to challenge the town's deep-seated biases and perhaps even change the course of their shared history. As John drove away, the pain of humiliation mingled with a flicker of determination. He refused to let this be the end of the story. He would seek justice, not only for himself, but for anyone who had faced similar discrimination. Perhaps in time, the diner would serve as a lesson, not just a place for coffee and pie. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The town of Oakwood was about to witness a transformation that would surprise everyone and teach a powerful lesson about forgiveness, change, and the strength of community bonds. Echoes of injustice. As John Carter drove away from Tom's Diner, the familiar scenery of Oakwood blurred past him, but his mind was far from focused on the picturesque landscape. The rolling hills, with their vibrant patches of golden wheat and emerald green forests, felt like a world away from the turmoil churning within him. He gripped the steering wheel tighter, fighting back the tears that threatened to spill. How had this happened? A simple visit to a place he had cherished had spiraled into a moment of profound humiliation. Back at the diner, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The few patrons who had been present during the incident exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of the moment settling heavily on their shoulders. It was a small town, and news spread faster than wildfire. In the corner booth, Betty Johnson, a retired school teacher known for her nurturing nature, couldn't shake the feeling of guilt that washed over her. She had witnessed the entire exchange but remained silent, frozen in disbelief. "Did you see that?" she finally murmured, breaking the silence that enveloped the diner like a fog. Her voice trembled slightly. "I can't believe Tom would treat John like that." Mary, a waitress who had worked at the diner for over a decade, nodded solemnly. "I've known John for years. He's served this country and our community. He didn't deserve that. But what can we do?" Betty leaned forward, her heart racing as she pondered the ramifications of what she had witnessed. "We can't let this go unchallenged. It's time we stand up against this kind of treatment. We owe it to John and to ourselves." The diner hummed with whispers of agreement. Several patrons began sharing their own experiences, memories of John's service, and the warmth he had brought to their lives. Each story echoed with a sense of shared humanity that had been overshadowed by Tom's prejudice. Meanwhile, across town, John pulled into his driveway, the familiar crunch of gravel beneath his tires bringing a fleeting sense of comfort. But as he stepped out of his truck, the weight of what had just happened settled back in. He walked towards his front porch, his gaze drifting over the lawn he had tended to with pride. The vibrant flowers were a testament to his labor, yet they seemed to mock him now, reminding him of the acceptance he once felt in the community. Inside, the home he had built was filled with memories, photos of family gatherings, old war memorabilia, and mementos from a life well lived. Each piece told a story, yet the warmth of those memories felt distant now, overshadowed by the recent humiliation. John poured himself a glass of water, but his appetite for anything faded. He sank into his worn armchair, staring at the wall, lost in thought. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue through the windows, John's phone buzzed on the table, jolting him from his reverie. It was a message from his son, Marcus, a young man who had inherited John's strong sense of justice and compassion. "Hey, Dad, how's it going? Let's catch up soon. I miss you." John couldn't help but smile at the thought of his son, who had recently returned home after serving overseas. Marcus was his pride and joy, a reflection of the values John had fought to protect. But even as he thought of Marcus, the sting of that day's events seeped back into his heart. "I miss you too, son," he texted back, forcing a smile as he hit send. "Let's get together tomorrow." The next morning, Oakwood was abuzz with the aftermath of the incident at Tom's Diner. News had spread like wildfire, and people gathered at the local cafe, a popular meeting spot for residents. Conversations flared up around town, with whispers of outrage and disbelief echoing through the streets. Betty and Mary took it upon themselves to organize a small gathering at the diner to discuss the situation. They placed flyers around town, inviting anyone who felt strongly about the matter to join them for coffee and conversation. As they prepared for the meeting, a mixture of hope and trepidation filled their hearts. On the day of the gathering, the diner was packed. The usual hum of chatter returned, but now it was charged with a sense of urgency. Old friends reunited over cups of steaming coffee, discussing everything from the weather to the recent incident that had cast a shadow over their beloved diner. As people filtered in, Betty and Mary took their places at the front, sharing glances of solidarity. They had both witnessed the injustice, and now they felt compelled to speak out. "Thank you all for coming," Betty began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "We're here today because we cannot stand by and allow discrimination to take root in our community. What happened to John Carter was unacceptable." Mary nodded in agreement. "He's not just a veteran. He's a neighbor, a friend, and a part of our lives. We have to stand up for him, and for everyone who has been affected by prejudice." As they spoke, a wave of conviction washed over the crowd. They shared their stories of John, recounting how he had been a pillar of strength in their lives and how his sacrifices had paved the way for the freedoms they enjoyed. The more they spoke, the more the atmosphere shifted from one of discomfort to determination. In the corner of the diner, a young woman named Lisa, a journalist for the local paper, listened intently. Inspired by the passionate discussions unfolding before her, she felt compelled to write about the incident and the gathering. She could sense the momentum building, the community beginning to rally around John and his cause. After the meeting, she approached Betty and Mary. "I'd like to help. I think it's important to share John's story, not just what happened to him, but also his life and service to our country. We can't let this moment fade into silence." Betty's eyes lit up with gratitude. "That would mean the world to us and to John. He deserves to be heard." As the days went by, more and more residents began to voice their support. Lisa's article, titled "A Community's Outcry, Standing Against Discrimination," was published, detailing the incident and the subsequent gathering at the diner. It spread quickly, igniting discussions across Oakwood and beyond. The article prompted letters to the editor, phone calls, and visits from community members who wanted to take a stand. Each letter was a testament to John's impact on the town, and a reminder that their shared humanity could not be overshadowed by one man's prejudice. Meanwhile, John, unaware of the growing wave of support behind him, was grappling with his own feelings of isolation. The thought of returning to the diner filled him with dread, but he also felt a flicker of hope. He decided to call Marcus and invite him for dinner that evening, knowing his son would provide the comfort and strength he desperately needed. "Dad, I'll be there," Marcus replied, his voice filled with warmth. "I've heard about what happened at the diner. Just know I'm proud of you, and I'm here for you." As John prepared dinner that evening, he couldn't shake the feeling that something significant was about to happen, not just for him, but for the entire community. He set the table for two, his heart racing with anticipation. When Marcus arrived, he found his father deep in thought, the weight of the past few days hanging heavily in the air. They sat down to a meal filled with laughter and nostalgia, sharing stories of Marcus's time overseas and the challenges he faced. "Dad, I want you to know that what happened at the diner doesn't define you or your service," Marcus said, his eyes filled with empathy. "You've dedicated your life to protecting our freedoms, and I'm so proud of you." John's heart swelled with pride, but the hurt of the incident lingered. "I just wish people could see past their prejudices. I've fought for a world where everyone is treated equally, and now it feels like we're still stuck in the past." Marcus leaned in, his voice firm yet soothing. "Change takes time, but you've always taught me that standing up for what's right is worth the fight. You're not alone in this, Dad. The community is rallying behind you." With renewed hope, John began to realize that while he had faced rejection, he was also experiencing a powerful awakening within his community. The support he felt from Marcus mirrored the collective sentiment building among the townsfolk. Perhaps this moment of injustice could be the catalyst for meaningful change. As they finished dinner, John and Marcus decided to take a walk through the neighborhood. The evening air was cool, and the stars began to twinkle above them, illuminating the path ahead. It was a moment of bonding, a reminder that even in the darkest times, love and unity could shine through. Little did they know that the movement ignited by that single act of prejudice was just beginning. The residents of Oakwood were ready to take a stand, and the echoes of injustice were about to transform into a chorus of resilience and hope. The ripple effect. The dawn of a new day in Oakwood brought with it a renewed sense of purpose. As the sun rose, casting warm golden rays across the town, the residents were waking up to a reality that was both hopeful and charged with determination. The recent incident at Tom's Diner had sparked a movement, and whispers of unity began to spread through the community like wildfire. In the days following the gathering at the diner, a coalition of citizens formed, consisting of longtime residents and newcomers alike. They began meeting regularly to discuss their shared goal of confronting discrimination and fostering inclusivity. The group, which they affectionately named Oakwood United, was committed to ensuring that no one else would have to endure the humiliation that John Carter had faced. Betty and Mary emerged as the informal leaders of the coalition, their passion infectious as they inspired others to join their cause. Betty, with her years of experience in education, emphasized the importance of dialogue and understanding. We need to educate ourselves and each other about the impact of our words and actions. This is not just about John. It's about creating a safer, more welcoming community for everyone, she explained during one of their meetings. Mary, with her deep-rooted connections in the diner and the community, focused on outreach. She organized small gatherings, inviting people from all walks of life to share their stories of adversity and resilience. "Every voice matters," she insisted, her eyes bright with conviction. "We have to create a space where people feel heard and valued. Together, we can make a difference." Meanwhile, John found himself grappling with conflicting emotions. The support from his son and the community offered a glimmer of hope, yet the fear of facing Tom's Diner again lingered. As the days turned into weeks, he watched from his porch as the buzz around town grew. Cars filled the parking lot of the diner, yet he felt an overwhelming apprehension about returning. One evening, while flipping through the local newspaper, John stumbled upon an article penned by Lisa, the young journalist. It detailed the formation of Oakwood United and highlighted the voices of residents who had stepped forward to share their experiences with prejudice and discrimination. It was a beautiful tapestry of stories, woven together with threads of courage and resilience. John's heart swelled with pride, knowing that his community was taking a stand against the very bias he had endured. Feeling compelled to contribute, John reached out to Betty and Mary, expressing his desire to share his story. "I want to be part of this," he told them over the phone. "If it can help others who've been hurt, I'm in." The next meeting of Oakwood United was set for that weekend, and John prepared himself to speak publicly for the first time about his experience. As the day approached, he practiced in front of the mirror, rehearsing his words with a mixture of anxiety and resolve. "You've faced worse," he reminded himself, his reflection urging him to embrace the courage he had once shown in battle. On the day of the meeting, the small community center was filled with eager faces, all coming together in support of a common cause. As John entered the room, the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. The chatter died down as everyone turned to him, their eyes filled with encouragement. "Thank you for being here," John began, his voice shaking slightly but steadying as he continued. "I never thought I'd be standing here, sharing my story. I've served this country and fought for the freedoms we enjoy. Yet I faced something that shook me to my core, a moment of discrimination that I never expected to experience in my own community. On the day of the gathering, the diner was packed. The usual hum of chatter returned, but now it was charged with a sense of urgency. Old friends reunited over cups of steaming coffee, discussing everything from the weather to the recent incident that had cast a shadow over their beloved diner. As people filtered in, Betty and Mary took their places at the front, sharing glances of solidarity. They had both witnessed the injustice, and now they felt compelled to speak out. "Thank you all for coming," Betty began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "We're here today because we cannot stand by and allow discrimination to take root in our community. What happened to John Carter was unacceptable." Mary nodded in agreement. "He's not just a veteran. He's a neighbor, a friend, and a part of our lives. We have to stand up for him, and for everyone who has been affected by prejudice." As they spoke, a wave of conviction washed over the crowd. They shared their stories of John, recounting how he had been a pillar of strength in their lives and how his sacrifices had paved the way for the freedoms they enjoyed. The more they spoke, the more the atmosphere shifted from one of discomfort to determination. In the corner of the diner, a young woman named Lisa, a journalist for the local paper, listened intently. Inspired by the passionate discussions unfolding before her, she felt compelled to write about the incident and the gathering. She could sense the momentum building, the community beginning to rally around John and his cause. After the meeting, she approached Betty and Mary. "I'd like to help. I think it's important to share John's story, not just what happened to him, but also his life and service to our country. We can't let this moment fade into silence." Betty's eyes lit up with gratitude. That would mean the world to us and to John. He deserves to be heard. As the days went by, more and more residents began to voice their support. Lisa's article, titled "A Community's Outcry, Standing Against Discrimination," was published, detailing the incident and the subsequent gathering at the diner. It spread quickly, igniting discussions across Oakwood and beyond. The article prompted letters to the editor, phone calls, and visits from community members who wanted to take a stand. Each letter was a testament to John's impact on the town and a reminder that their shared humanity could not be overshadowed by one man's prejudice. Meanwhile, John, unaware of the growing wave of support behind him, was grappling with his own feelings of isolation. The thought of returning to the diner filled him with dread, but he also felt a flicker of hope. He decided to call Marcus and invite him for dinner that evening, knowing his son would provide the comfort and strength he desperately needed. "Dad, I'll be there," Marcus replied, his voice filled with warmth. "I've heard about what happened at the diner. Just know I'm proud of you, and I'm here for you." As John prepared dinner that evening, he couldn't shake the feeling that something significant was about to happen, not just for him, but for the entire community. He set the table for two, his heart racing with anticipation. When Marcus arrived, he found his father deep in thought, the weight of the past few days hanging heavily in the air. They sat down to a meal filled with laughter and nostalgia, sharing stories of Marcus's time overseas and the challenges he faced. "Dad, I want you to know that what happened at the diner doesn't define you or your service," Marcus said, his eyes filled with empathy. "You've dedicated your life to protecting our freedoms, and I'm so proud of you." John's heart swelled with pride, but the hurt of the incident lingered. "I just wish people could see past their prejudices. I fought for a world where everyone is treated equally, and now it feels like we're still stuck in the past." Marcus leaned in, his voice firm yet soothing. "Change takes time, but you've always taught me that standing up for what's right is worth the fight. You're not alone in this, Dad. The community is rallying behind you." With renewed hope, John began to realize that while he had faced rejection, he was also experiencing a powerful awakening within his community. The support he felt from Marcus mirrored the collective sentiment building among the townsfolk. Perhaps this moment of injustice could be the catalyst for meaningful change. He recounted the incident at Tom's diner, his words painting a vivid picture of the humiliation and confusion he felt that day. As he spoke, the room was silent, each person hanging on to his every word. He expressed not just his pain, but also his hope that their community could rise above prejudice and learn to embrace their differences. "I believe in the goodness of this community," John continued, "and I know that together we can foster an environment where everyone feels valued and respected. It starts with us, each and every one of us." As he concluded, a wave of applause erupted, echoing off the walls of the community center. The warmth of the support enveloped him like a comforting blanket, igniting a fire within. John realized he was not alone. He was surrounded by individuals who shared his vision of a brighter future. In the following weeks, Oakwood United gained momentum. They organized events centered around education and awareness, inviting speakers from various backgrounds to share their experiences. Workshops were held to discuss the impact of words, stereotypes, and the importance of empathy. The community began to engage in difficult conversations about race and prejudice, learning from each other's stories in a safe and supportive environment. As the coalition grew, they launched a campaign to promote inclusivity, encouraging local businesses to display signs that read, "All are welcome here." Tom's Diner, now the focal point of their movement, became a topic of discussion. Many residents felt conflicted about returning to a place that had represented both comfort and discomfort. One evening, Betty and Mary decided to pay Tom a visit. They hoped to talk to him about the changes in the community and encourage him to embrace the movement toward inclusivity. As they entered the diner, they were greeted by a familiar atmosphere, a blend of comforting aromas, and the chatter of patrons. However, there was an underlying tension that lingered, a reminder of what had transpired. Tom, noticing the two women, approached them cautiously. His expression was guarded, a mix of defensiveness and uncertainty. "What can I do for you?" he asked, his voice lacking the warmth it once held. "We're here to talk about what happened," Betty began gently. "We believe in the power of forgiveness and growth, but we also want to help you understand how your actions affected John and the community." Tom shifted uncomfortably, his gaze dropping to the floor. "I made a mistake," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I was wrong to treat him that way. But you have to understand, I've lived in this town for years, and I've seen things change. I didn't know how to handle it." Mary stepped in, her tone compassionate. "Change can be difficult, Tom, but it's essential. We're not here to blame you. We want to find a way to move forward together. The community is ready for a change, and we believe you can be a part of that." Tom's brow furrowed as he listened, the weight of their words sinking in. He thought about the years he had spent running the diner, the relationships he had built, and the memories he had created with the community. "I've always thought of myself as an ally, but I see now that I have a lot to learn," he confessed. Over the next few weeks, Tom became a surprising ally to Oakwood United. He reached out to John, asking for an opportunity to apologize face to face. When they met, Tom expressed his deep regret for how he had treated John. "I can't change the past," Tom said earnestly, "but I want to make it right. How can I help?" John, taken aback by the sincerity in Tom's eyes, felt a mixture of emotions. The hurt lingered, but so did the possibility of healing. "We need to create a space where everyone feels welcome," he replied. "If you're willing, we could hold community discussions at the diner." Tom nodded, a flicker of hope igniting in his chest. "I'd like that. I want to learn, and I want the diner to be a place where everyone can feel safe." The collaboration marked a turning point for the diner and the community. Tom worked alongside Oakwood United to host discussions on diversity and inclusion, opening the doors of his establishment to those who had previously felt unwelcome. The diner transformed into a hub for dialogue, a place where residents came together to share their stories and build connections. As John observed this transformation, he felt a sense of pride swelling within him. The community was not just coming together, they were evolving. And in this evolution, he found healing. Each conversation at the diner helped to mend the wounds of the past, paving the way for a brighter future. One evening, during one of the discussions, a young woman named Sarah shared her story of growing up in Oakwood as a biracial child. Her experiences of feeling out of place resonated deeply with the crowd. "I've often felt like I had to choose between two worlds," she said, her voice steady yet filled with emotion. "But I believe we can create a community where everyone belongs, where no one has to feel like an outsider." The room erupted in applause, and John couldn't help but feel a surge of hope. It was clear that change was underway, and the collective strength of their stories was shaping a new narrative for Oakwood. As the weeks turned into months, the diner continued to thrive as a symbol of unity and resilience. The sign that once simply read "Tom's Diner" was soon adorned with the words, "All are welcome here." Patrons, both new and old, began to frequent the diner, finding comfort not only in the food, but also in the sense of community it now fostered. John often sat at the counter, sipping his coffee while chatting with fellow patrons. The air was filled with laughter and stories, a stark contrast to the silence that had once enveloped the diner. He felt a renewed sense of belonging, knowing that his experience had catalyzed a significant shift in the community. As the seasons changed, so too did the atmosphere in Oakwood. The once divided town had come together, united in their pursuit of understanding and acceptance. John reflected on how far they had come, recognizing that while prejudice still existed in various forms, they had taken significant steps toward creating a more inclusive community. Through the lessons learned in the aftermath of that single act of discrimination, John and his neighbors discovered the power of empathy and dialogue. Together, they had transformed pain into progress, paving the way for future generations to live in a community that embraced diversity and celebrated their shared humanity. Bridging divides. As autumn leaves began to paint Oakwood in vibrant hues of red and gold, the community continued to evolve. The transformation of Tom's Diner into a hub for dialogue and inclusivity became a beacon of hope for many. It was not just a place to grab a bite to eat. It was a sanctuary where individuals gathered to share their stories, explore their differences, and learn from one another. The discussions at the diner had sparked a series of community initiatives aimed at fostering understanding and acceptance. John Carter, now a familiar face at these gatherings, felt an invigorating sense of purpose. The once bitter aftertaste of humiliation had been replaced with the sweet satisfaction of community building. One day, Betty and Mary proposed a bold idea during one of their planning meetings at the diner. "We should host a community fair," Betty suggested, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "It would be a great way to bring everyone together and celebrate our diversity." Mary chimed in. "We could have booths representing different cultures, local artisans, food from various backgrounds, and activities for families. This fair could become an annual tradition that fosters unity." The idea resonated with everyone in attendance. John felt a surge of excitement at the prospect of showcasing the rich tapestry of Oakwood's diverse community. "Let's do it. I'll help coordinate with local businesses and find sponsors," he offered, determination shining in his eyes. The planning kicked into high gear, and over the next few weeks, the community rallied behind the fair. Local businesses donated supplies, volunteers signed up to help organize activities, and individuals began sharing their cultural backgrounds to create a vibrant tapestry of experiences. As the date of the fair approached, a sense of anticipation filled the air. Flyers were distributed throughout Oakwood, announcing the event and inviting everyone to partake in the festivities. Children chattered excitedly about the games and activities planned, while adults shared their hopes for a more inclusive community. On the day of the fair, the atmosphere was electric. The town square, usually quiet, buzzed with life as colorful tents dotted the landscape, each representing a different culture or local tradition. The smell of various cuisines wafted through the air, inviting attendees to sample everything from spicy tacos to savory empanadas and aromatic curry. John, with a team of volunteers, set up a booth dedicated to sharing the history of Oakwood, highlighting the stories of its residents who had contributed to its rich heritage. He wanted to emphasize how every individual, regardless of their background, had played a role in shaping the town. As families mingled and explored the booths, John spotted Tom at a neighboring booth. He was serving slices of apple pie, the same pie that had once been the source of humiliation. But now, it represented healing and a fresh start. Tom smiled warmly at every patron, engaging in conversations that were filled with laughter and camaraderie. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the fair, John took a moment to absorb the scene around him. He watched as children of different backgrounds played together, adults exchanged recipes and stories, and laughter echoed through the square. It was a powerful reminder of what their community could achieve when they came together. Suddenly, the sound of a microphone crackling to life drew everyone's attention. Betty stepped onto the makeshift stage, a smile beaming across her face. "Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today to celebrate the diversity that makes Oakwood special. We've come together not only to enjoy good food and company, but to acknowledge the strength in our differences." The crowd cheered, and John felt his heart swell with pride. Betty continued, "Today is a testament to what we can accomplish when we embrace one another, learn from each other, and stand up against prejudice." After her introduction, the fair featured performances from local artists showcasing music and dance from various cultures. A group of children joined in a lively dance, their joy infectious as they twirled around the stage. The atmosphere was one of unity and celebration, a stark contrast to the division that had once threatened to overshadow their community. As the evening progressed, John felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned to find Marcus standing beside him, a beaming smile on his face. "Dad, this is incredible. Look at all these people coming together." John chuckled, wrapping an arm around his son's shoulders. "I never imagined we could achieve something like this. It's amazing what a little courage and determination can do." Marcus nodded, his expression serious. "You've shown everyone that standing up for what's right matters. You've inspired me, Dad. I want to continue this work, helping people understand each other better." Encouraged by his son's words, John shared his vision for the future of Oakwood with Marcus. "Imagine if we could create ongoing events like this, perhaps a monthly gathering where people can share their stories and experiences. We can keep the momentum going." Marcus's eyes lit up at the idea. "That would be amazing. We can start small and build from there. People need to know they're not alone in their struggles." As darkness enveloped the square, the fair transformed into a magical wonderland. Twinkling lights hung from the trees, and laughter mingled with the sounds of music, creating an atmosphere of joy and acceptance. John felt a profound sense of belonging, a feeling that had eluded him for far too long. As the night drew to a close, the community gathered once more at the center of the square. Betty and Mary thanked everyone for their participation, emphasizing the importance of continuing to engage in conversations about inclusivity and acceptance. "Let's carry this spirit forward," Mary urged. "We've taken a significant step today, but the journey doesn't end here. We must continue to work together to create a community where everyone feels safe and valued." The crowd erupted into cheers, their collective determination echoing through the night. John looked around at the faces of his neighbors, realizing that they had all shared in something transformative. The fair was not just a celebration. It was a manifestation of their commitment to building a more inclusive community. In the following weeks, the impact of the fair rippled through Oakwood. Conversations about diversity and acceptance became commonplace, and more residents began to share their stories. John and Marcus took the lead in organizing monthly gatherings, inviting residents to participate in discussions that focused on empathy, understanding, and personal growth. One evening, during one of these gatherings, a local high school student named Jasmine stepped forward to share her experience. "I've often felt invisible in this town," she admitted, her voice trembling. "As a young woman of color, I've faced prejudice, and it's hard to navigate that alone. But events like this have made me realize I'm not alone. We can stand together and create change." The room filled with applause, and John felt a surge of pride for the young people in the community who were finding their voices. It was a testament to the progress they had made, and he knew that this movement would only continue to grow. As Oakwood continued to embrace its diversity, John found himself reflecting on his journey. The humiliation he had faced at Tom's Diner had sparked a movement, igniting conversations that challenged prejudice and fostered understanding. It had brought the community together in a way he never thought possible. In the heart of the diner, now filled with laughter and connection, John felt a renewed sense of hope for the future. Together, they had built a bridge over the divides that once separated them, and as they walked that bridge, they forged a path toward a more inclusive and compassionate community. The journey was far from over, but John knew that as long as they continued to engage in open dialogue and stand up for one another, they could create lasting change. And with each step they took together, they not only honored the struggles of the past, but also embraced the possibilities of a brighter future. New horizons. As winter approached Oakwood, the air turned crisp, and the leaves had long fallen from the trees, leaving behind skeletal branches silhouetted against the gray sky. The community's spirit, however, was anything but bare. It had become a vibrant tapestry of connection and understanding woven from the threads of diverse experiences. The fair had ignited a spark that was continuing to grow, and the residents were dedicated to nurturing it. The monthly gatherings held at Tom's Diner became a beloved tradition. John and Marcus, alongside Betty and Mary, worked tirelessly to ensure that each meeting was engaging and meaningful. They invited speakers from various backgrounds, focusing on issues such as mental health, economic disparity, and the intersectionality of race, gender, and class. Each meeting brought new faces and fresh perspectives, creating a rich environment for discussion. During one of the gatherings, a local high school teacher named Mr. Thompson spoke about the importance of fostering inclusivity in education. As educators, we have the responsibility to create a classroom environment where every student feels valued, he stated passionately. But that starts with us, adults who model acceptance and understanding. We must confront our own biases and ensure that our schools reflect the diversity of our community. The audience listened intently, their expressions thoughtful. John felt a sense of pride as he watched younger residents, inspired by Mr. Thompson's words, engage in lively discussions about how they could advocate for change in the school system. "Let's create a mentorship program," suggested Jasmine, the young woman who had bravely shared her experience during an earlier meeting. "We could pair high school students with younger kids from different backgrounds. It could help foster understanding and friendships that break down barriers." The idea resonated with the group, and plans were quickly set in motion. The mentorship program would serve as a bridge, connecting students across various backgrounds and encouraging them to learn from one another. With each meeting, the community strengthened its commitment to inclusivity, and initiatives blossomed like wildflowers in spring. As the program took shape, John became increasingly aware of the powerful impact it was having. He volunteered as a mentor, eager to share his life experiences with the younger generation. The first meeting of the mentorship program was filled with excitement and a touch of nervousness. The kids gathered at the community center, their eyes wide with anticipation. "Welcome, everyone." John greeted the group, a warm smile spreading across his face. "I'm excited to be here with all of you. This program is about sharing our stories and learning from each other. Each of you has a unique background, and together, we can create something truly special." As they settled into small groups, John found himself paired with a bright-eyed boy named Malik. Malik, a sixth grader with an infectious curiosity, asked questions with unfiltered honesty. "What was it like when you were my age?" he inquired, leaning forward in his seat. "Did you have to deal with stuff like bullying?" John took a deep breath, reflecting on his own childhood. "When I was your age, things were different. I faced challenges, just like you. But I learned that it's essential to stand up for yourself and for others. Sometimes, that means making friends with those who are different from you." Malik nodded thoughtfully, his eyes shining with interest. "I want to be brave like that, but it's hard." "I understand," John replied gently. But remember, bravery doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means you're willing to face your fears. And you're not alone in this. You have your friends, your mentors, and this community behind you. As the mentorship program progressed, friendships blossomed among the students. They shared experiences, celebrated cultural differences, and created bonds that would last long after the program ended. John watched with a sense of fulfillment as Malik and his peers embraced one another's unique stories, embodying the spirit of the community they were building together. Meanwhile, Oakwood United continued to expand its reach. They organized community cleanup days, art projects that celebrated diversity, and events that highlighted local artists from various backgrounds. The townsfolk eagerly participated, each activity reinforcing the sense of belonging they had cultivated. During one particularly cold evening, the group held a community potluck at the community center. Residents brought dishes that represented their heritage: soul food, Mexican tamales, Italian pasta, and Indian curry filled the tables, creating a feast that was as diverse as the people who had prepared it. As they gathered around, sharing food and laughter, John felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. The very essence of what he had fought for, the acceptance of diversity and the strength of community, was alive and thriving in Oakwood. As the evening progressed, Mary suggested an idea that sparked excitement among the group. What if we put together a community mural that reflects our journey toward inclusivity? We could invite everyone to contribute their ideas and artistry. The suggestion was met with resounding enthusiasm. The mural would not only serve as a visual representation of their progress, but also as a lasting reminder of their commitment to understanding and acceptance. With the help of local artists and volunteers, plans were laid out for the mural's design. They envisioned a vibrant depiction of Oakwood's history, interwoven with symbols of hope, unity, and strength. As they brainstormed ideas, John found himself lost in thought. He wanted the mural to include an image of the diner, symbolizing how a single act of prejudice had catalyzed a movement of change. As the days turned into weeks, the community worked diligently on the mural. Residents of all ages picked up brushes and paints, transforming a blank wall into a kaleidoscope of colors and stories. John watched as Malik, along with other students, painted vibrant images that represented their dreams and aspirations for the future. Finally, the day of the mural unveiling arrived. The sun shone brightly, casting a warm glow over the community center as residents gathered for the event. Excitement filled the air as children ran around, laughter echoing through the streets. John took a moment to appreciate how far they had come. The mural stood proudly on the wall, a beautiful representation of their journey. It depicted not only the challenges they had faced, but also the resilience that had emerged from those experiences. The diner, prominently featured in the center, served as a reminder of how a moment of injustice had sparked a powerful movement for change. As Betty stepped up to the microphone, the crowd fell silent. Today, we celebrate not just the unveiling of this mural, but the unity and strength we've found as a community. Each stroke of paint represents a story, a struggle, and a commitment to building a more inclusive Oakwood. Let this mural remind us of our shared journey and the work that lies ahead. With that, the crowd erupted into applause, the energy electric. As the final curtain was drawn back to reveal the mural, gasps of awe echoed through the crowd. The colors danced in the sunlight, each image telling a story of connection, resilience, and hope. John stood at the front, his heart full as he watched the expressions of those around him. This mural was not just art. It was a testament to their collective strength and determination. It embodied the spirit of Oakwood, a community ready to embrace change, celebrate diversity, and stand against prejudice. In the months that followed, the mural became a gathering point for the community. People came together to discuss important issues, share their experiences, and continue the dialogue that had sparked the movement. John found himself leading discussions on how they could keep pushing for positive change, emphasizing the importance of listening to one another. One evening, during a gathering at the mural, John was approached by a woman named Clara, a newcomer to Oakwood. "I moved here just a few months ago, and I can't tell you how refreshing it is to see this community coming together," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. "I've lived in other towns where prejudice ran rampant, but here I feel hope. You all are doing something incredible." Her words resonated deeply with John. The changes they had fostered were not just for themselves, but for future generations. The seeds of understanding they were planting would bloom into a garden of acceptance that could withstand the tests of time. As winter turned to spring, Oakwood began to flourish in more ways than one. The mentorship program expanded, with students actively participating in community events and advocating for inclusivity in schools. The mural stood as a symbol of their commitment to change, and the diner remained a welcoming space where stories were shared and connections deepened. One sunny afternoon, John and Marcus took a walk around town, reflecting on the progress they had made. "I can't believe how much has changed," Marcus said, a smile spreading across his face. "It's like the whole town has woken up. People are engaging in ways I'd never seen before." John nodded, pride swelling in his chest. "It's the power of community. When we come together, we can accomplish so much more than we can alone." As they walked past Tom's Diner, John paused, gazing up at the new sign that read, "All are welcome here." The diner had become a true embodiment of their journey, a place where people could come together to share meals, stories, and laughter, free from prejudice and judgment. In that moment, John felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the path they had walked. The journey had been long and fraught with challenges, but it had also been filled with moments of joy, connection, and understanding. He realized that Oakwood was not just a place on a map. It was a community bound by shared experiences, resilience, and a commitment to embrace the richness of diversity. As the sun set behind the hills, casting a warm glow over the town, John understood that their work was far from finished. But with each step they took, they were paving the way for a brighter future, one where acceptance thrived, and every individual felt seen, valued, and celebrated. And in that knowledge, he found hope. A legacy of hope. As spring blossomed in Oakwood, life returned to the town with renewed vigor. The air was filled with the sweet fragrance of blooming flowers, and laughter echoed through the streets as families emerged from their winter hibernation. The community was not only flourishing, but evolving into something greater than the sum of its parts. The mural on the community center wall had become a symbol of transformation, drawing in visitors from neighboring towns. People came to witness the colorful representation of Oakwood's journey toward inclusivity, and many expressed a desire to replicate similar initiatives in their own communities. The story of John Carter and the unity forged through adversity began to spread beyond the borders of Oakwood. In response to the growing interest, Oakwood United organized a community festival, inviting neighboring towns to join in a day of sharing stories, cultures, and traditions. The festival aimed to foster connections and encourage conversations about diversity, acceptance, and the importance of community. As the date of the festival approached, excitement filled the air. John, Marcus, Betty, and Mary worked tirelessly to coordinate the event, ensuring that every detail was meticulously planned. They reached out to local businesses, artists, and performers, inviting them to participate and share their talents. On the day of the festival, the town square was transformed into a vibrant celebration. Colorful banners fluttered in the gentle breeze, booths lined the streets, and the sound of music filled the air. John marveled at the sight, feeling a surge of pride for the community he had once thought would never change. "Look at this, Dad," Marcus exclaimed, pointing to a group of children gathered around a booth where they were learning traditional dance moves from different cultures. "This is exactly what we envisioned." John nodded, his heart swelling with joy. "It's incredible to see how far we've come. This festival is a testament to the strength of our community." As the festivities continued, John made his way to the booth dedicated to sharing stories. There, he found himself surrounded by people eager to share their experiences and connect with one another. An elderly man named Mr. Jenkins approached him, a smile on his face. "John, I wanted to thank you for all you've done," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "You've inspired many of us to confront our biases and open our hearts. This festival is a wonderful way to honor that." "Thank you, Mr. Jenkins," John replied, humbled. "It's a collective effort. We're all in this together, and I'm grateful for the support of our community." As the day unfolded, speakers took to the stage to share their stories, weaving a rich tapestry of experiences that captivated the audience. People spoke of overcoming adversity, finding strength in their differences, and the transformative power of unity. Each story resonated deeply, creating a sense of solidarity among attendees. During one of the sessions, Jasmine shared her journey as a biracial student in Oakwood. "When I was younger, I often felt like I didn't belong anywhere," she began, her voice steady. "But through the mentorship program and events like this, I've learned that my experiences matter. We all have unique stories, and together, we can create a community where everyone feels accepted." Her words struck a chord with many in the audience, prompting nods of agreement and expressions of support. John felt a wave of pride wash over him as he realized that Jasmine was not just sharing her story. She was leading by example, inspiring others to embrace their identities and stand together in solidarity. As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden glow over the festival, John took a moment to reflect on how far they had come. The journey had not been easy, but the transformation within Oakwood was profound. The community had come together to confront prejudice, embrace diversity, and build connections that transcended differences. In the weeks following the festival, the momentum continued to build. The mentorship program flourished, with students actively engaging in outreach efforts within their schools. They organized anti-bullying campaigns, cultural awareness events, and discussions about the importance of acceptance. The ripple effect of their efforts extended beyond the confines of Oakwood, inspiring neighboring towns to explore similar initiatives. During one of their mentorship meetings, John received unexpected news. Clara, the newcomer who had expressed gratitude for the community's efforts, approached him with a proposal. "John, I've been in touch with some community leaders from other towns. They're interested in collaborating on a regional initiative aimed at promoting inclusivity and diversity across multiple communities." John's heart raced at the thought of expanding their efforts. "That sounds incredible. We could share our experiences and create a network of support. It's essential that we continue this work beyond our borders." With Clara's help, John and Oakwood United began planning a regional summit that would bring together community leaders, activists, and residents from neighboring towns. The goal was to create a platform for sharing ideas, strategies, and success stories, while encouraging dialogue about the importance of inclusivity in their respective communities. As the date of the summit approached, John found himself filled with a mix of excitement and nerves. He had always believed in the power of community, but now he was stepping onto a larger stage. The thought of sharing their journey and encouraging others to embrace change filled him with purpose. On the day of the summit, representatives from various towns gathered in Oakwood, eager to learn from one another. The community center buzzed with energy as participants exchanged stories and ideas. John felt a sense of camaraderie as he mingled with attendees, sharing insights and discussing strategies for promoting inclusivity. During the opening session, Clara introduced John as one of the key speakers. As he took the stage, he looked out at the sea of faces before him. He could see the same determination and hope that had driven Oakwood to transform. "Thank you all for being here today," John began, his voice steady. "I'm honored to share our story and the journey we've undertaken in Oakwood. It all started with a single act of prejudice, but through the support of our community, we've turned that experience into a catalyst for change." He recounted the events leading up to the formation of Oakwood United, the mentorship program, and the impact of the mural. He spoke about the importance of fostering connections, understanding, and acceptance within their communities. "Our journey is ongoing," John emphasized. "Change takes time, but every conversation, Every connection we make brings us one step closer to a more inclusive future. Let's work together to create spaces where everyone feels valued and respected, no matter their background. The audience erupted into applause, and John felt a surge of encouragement wash over him. This was not just his story. It was a shared narrative that resonated deeply with others who had faced similar challenges. As the summit progressed, attendees participated in workshops focused on practical strategies for fostering inclusivity. They engaged in discussions about anti-bullying initiatives, community outreach programs, and creating safe spaces for marginalized voices. The atmosphere was electric with enthusiasm and a shared commitment to driving change. Over the course of the summit, friendships blossomed among participants, and connections formed that would extend far beyond the event. John found himself inspired by the stories of resilience he encountered, each one a testament to the strength of the human spirit. As the summit drew to a close, Clara gathered everyone for a final reflection. Today, we shared our stories, our struggles, and our successes, but this is just the beginning. Let's continue this momentum and commit to taking action in our own communities. Together, we can create a legacy of hope and change. With that, participants pledged to return to their towns with renewed energy and a collective mission to promote inclusivity. The connections forged at the summit would serve as a foundation for ongoing collaboration, ensuring that the work sparked in Oakwood would ripple outward, inspiring change in neighboring communities. As John drove home that evening, he reflected on the day's events. The journey had come full circle, from the moment of humiliation he had faced at Tom's Diner to standing on a stage, sharing their story of resilience and hope. He realized that they had not only changed Oakwood, but had also ignited a movement that extended far beyond its borders. In the months that followed, Oakwood flourished as a model of inclusivity. The initiatives born from the summit continued to thrive, and the mentorship program expanded, connecting even more students with mentors who would guide and support them. John found himself more engaged in the community than ever before, taking on a leadership role in Oakwood United. He worked alongside residents to develop educational programs for schools, focusing on anti-bullying campaigns and workshops that promoted understanding and acceptance. One evening, while leading a workshop at the local high school, John looked around the room at the eager faces before him. "Remember, each of you has the power to create change," he said, his voice filled with conviction. "You can be the difference makers in your school and community. Stand up for one another, embrace your differences, and let your voices be heard." As he concluded the workshop, he noticed Malik sitting in the front row, a confident smile on his face. John felt a swell of pride as he recognized the growth in the young boy. Malik had transformed from a timid child into a passionate advocate for inclusivity, embodying the spirit of resilience that had defined their journey. Months turned into years, and the impact of their work continued to be felt throughout Oakwood and beyond. The community held an annual festival to celebrate diversity, where stories were shared, cultures were honored, and connections were strengthened. As John looked back on their journey, he realized that while the fight for inclusivity was ongoing, the seeds of change had been firmly planted. Oakwood was not just a town. It was a legacy of hope, a testament to the power of community, and a place where every individual could thrive. On a warm summer evening, John stood in front of the mural with Marcus and Jasmine, their eyes shining with pride. "Look at what we've accomplished together," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "We've turned pain into progress, and every day we continue to grow." As the sun set behind the mural, casting a warm glow over the community, John felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The journey had been long and filled with challenges, but it had also been filled with moments of joy, connection, and understanding. And as he stood there, surrounded by those who had become like family, he knew that their legacy of hope would continue to inspire future generations to embrace diversity, celebrate differences, and create a world where everyone felt seen and valued. Together, they had built a bridge over the divides that once separated them, paving the way for a brighter future, one where the strength of community would endure, and the seeds of change would continue to blossom for years to come.